Hi, everyone. My name's Caroline Miller. I'm speaking to you from Ghana land. I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners and also to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on the call today. I'm going to talk about changing perspectives from, I'm a behavioural scientist and a public health policy researcher, and I'm going to talk about changing perspectives with regard to policy change and framing. I work in tobacco control as well as obesity policy, and I'm going to talk about reducing harms from smoking without blaming smokers and draw parallels to obesity policy. Next slide, please. So we need to reframe the problem from one of personal responsibility to that of a major public health challenge. We need to reframe solutions from being about individuals making different choices completely to the drivers of population behaviours and also health outcomes. And of course, we have different audiences within this. So we have individuals who we want to motivate and empower and assist. But we also have governments who we want to understand properly, who we want to resource and who we want to act in terms of policy reform. And then we have the media and the community who we want to have a better understanding, be more respectful, and who we want to support evidence-based policy change. Next slide, please. So in terms of framing the problem from one of individual health concern to a major public health challenge, I think the parallels between smoking and the harms as a result of obesity are quite strong. So tobacco has been our biggest preventable threat to public health as measured by burden of disease for a long time. And obesity is the second biggest threat by our current metrics, and it's on the rise. We've got enormous burdens to individuals in terms of risks to health and health outcomes. We have smoking, which drives burden to the health system. We have equivalency in terms of obesity at a population level. And also we have costs to individuals, costs to the health system, and costs in terms of lost productivity. So we can see that they're both significant public health challenges which need to be taken seriously by government. Next slide, please. So then in terms of framing the problem once again, population level change is what is required as opposed to perhaps current narrative, which is around individuals needing to do things differently. So smoking is a behaviour, it's a behaviour and smoking's visible. People can see it, people can smell it. And obesity is something that we know is influenced by behaviours, at least at its inception. And again, it's highly visible. So smoking was something where the health consequences were stigmatised, and we know we face a significant problem an unhelpful problem in terms of stigma of overweight. Previously, smoking was seen as something that was easy to fix. So there were misperceptions that people or individuals could quit at any time. And I think we know those misperceptions exist around obesity, so that people should just eat less and move more, or people internalise the view that they should just eat less and move more, and that will solve any problems. We also had problems in terms of risk perception around smoking. Smoking wasn't, when I worked in the field, lots of people didn't think smoking was really addictive, and the industry certainly denied that. And we also know we have misperceptions around risk with weight. So we know from our work that lots of people, young people, don't have any perceptions that they would be at risk of future obesity in terms of diets which are high in ultra-processed food and sugary drinks, and we know parents hold misperceptions as well. And I think one of the things we need to challenge is the view. So we know that a normal weight, whatever we call that, is no longer the norm. So we, at a societal level, we have a burden. Next slide, please. So in terms of framing the solutions, one of the things that we've been really strong on in tobacco control is evidence, evidence, evidence. And partly that's because, we were up against a competing narrative in tobacco control, and we are up against a very strong competing narrative about individual responsibility in overweight. We're also up against very powerful industries that are highly influential and have a lot to lose in terms of policies which might lead to reductions in smoking smoking, and policies which might lead to reductions in overconsumption of ultra-processed food and beverage. So we've got very strong evidence around health burdens. We've got very strong evidence in smoking that it's more than just an individual behaviour. We have an interplay between behaviour and biology. We also know we have an interplay between behaviour and biology with weight, and that services are actually required and appropriate services are required. Once again, in terms of behaviour, we know that behaviour, or how people see things as individual choice, is more than just individual choice. It's driven by the environment, it's driven by the availability, advertising and price of products. Next slide, please. The other thing that we learn in public health advocacy is that we frame things in terms of Australian community values. So in tobacco control, we were anti-smoking and anti-tobacco. We were never anti-smoking. We were never anti-smoker, rather. We can also talk about the rights of the child to an open future. We have parallels between smoking uptake and also what happens in terms of obesity. And then fairness and justice are really strong and important values in society and in Australia. And we can use those in how we frame our policy advocacy around people's right to information and education, people's right to be protected from misleading marketing, and also in terms of the way we implement our other interventions. Thanks very much for your time.